The library has always been, I think, to some extent, about the community and about being a community gathering place, being one of the few places in the community that everybody feels welcome in, feels an ownership of. And with everything going virtual and fewer people coming to the library to check out books, our standard old-fashioned but still very important function, doing things that bring people in and bring people together, and particularly bring people from different parts of the community. And something like the Meet the Past programs bring people together to celebrate something, you know, to talk about something we all love, whether it's a character from the past, you know, stories about our history, or it's someone who is a great creative artist like Johnny Mercer.
You better accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch on, to the affirmative. Don't mess with Mr. In-Between.
We started trying to do all people that have a relationship to Kansas City, a part of Kansas City's history. And Johnny Mercer doesn't, I'm sure he came through, and he probably sang here at some point, but he doesn't have a real relationship to Kansas City. But John Bauers has a relationship to Johnny Mercer, and John Bauers is from Kansas City.
I think then when you start playing Mercer's tunes, people go, oh, and he wrote that. Oh, and he wrote that. Oh, and that. Well, of course I know that tune. I was talking to my sister today, who's coming down. She goes, so who is Johnny Mercer? I said, well, you'll find out tonight. She goes, I don't think I know any of his music. I said, that's what you think. You know his music.
You know, we've never done this, but I've always wanted to do something, you know, with a, you know, sort of lively counterpoint to our sitting in chairs and talking with each other, and we're going to do it tonight.
One, two. Hi, Kansas City. One, two, one, two, three. I don't care what the weatherman says when the weatherman says it's raining. Never see me complaining, certain the sun will shine. I don't care where the weather vane points when the weather vane points to gloomy. Gotta be sunny to me when your eyes stare into mine. Oh, jeepers, creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Jeepers, creepers, where'd you get those eyes? Gosh, oh, get up, how'd they get so lit up? Gosh, oh, gee, oh, how'd they get that size?
What we're going to do tonight, for instance, is we're going to talk about songs that people my age, and really people of any age, because it's still all out there. It's the American Songbook, where it came from. And talk about a guy named Johnny Mercer, who is probably the least well-known of the really great figures in the American Songbook. And so it's time to tell his story.
When you get those eyes, thank you.
So there was this little boy in Kansas City named John Bauers. And as he was growing up, he discovered that the most famous Kansas Cityan shared a birthday with him. And he was pretty excited about that. You would be too if it was Mickey Mouse. Born at 31st and Forest, Walt Disney's Laugh-O-Gram Studios. But as he got a little bit older than that, and his sophisticated musical tastes started to come out, he was pretty excited to find that he was born exactly 50 years to the day after Johnny Mercer. And he started playing Johnny Mercer songs like Satin Doll and Laura. And his mother said to him, why, John, little Johnny, you're playing my music. And he said,
I said, well, Mom, is it really your music? Besides the fact, I'm old-fashioned. I love the moonlight. I love the old-fashioned things. the sound of rain upon my window pane.
Didn't think I knew any of Johnny Mercer's music, but of course I did. You know, I knew Moon River, and I knew Days of Wine and Roses, and The Summer Wind, and Goody Goody, and You Must Have Been a Beautiful Baby. I knew all kinds of his music.
Old-fashioned, I'll be old-fashioned. Come on and stay old-fashioned with me.
And so he became, and is now, Johnny Mercer. So Johnny, that was a great Jerome Kern song, and Rita Hayworth.
Jerome Kern, Johnny Mercer song.
Well, sorry, of course, all of the songs tonight are Johnny Mercer songs. Occasionally we'll mention a composer that you worked with.
Oh, good.
A little bit of what we want to know in tonight's performance is, where did this music come from? I mean, because it's pretty extraordinary, and he had a different background than the Tin Pan Alley guys, the Gershwins and Irving Berlin, and at the same time, he never had the sort of sophisticated education that Cole Porter did as the other end of the spectrum. So where did this music come from? And we're going to talk about that.
I was difficult for those composers, especially those New York guys who were used to, you know, someone to come into the room and spend the whole day, you know, hammering out a lyric. I might come into the room and I'd look around. I might be a little hungover, and I would almost always be late. And I'd find a couch maybe, and I'd kind of recline back, and I'd say, play me that song. And he'd play me the tune, and I'd say, play it again one more time. And I had a pretty good memory, Crosby. I could remember it, and I'd say, that's great, I'll get back to you. And then I would leave. And that drove them crazy.
Yeah,
but I always got back to them.
You did.
Sometimes I had a good look.
It said you wrote on fire escapes, you wrote, you know, train stations, etc. But then there came a romantic phase, a kind of high, sophisticated romantic phase, and you started to do some, you know, pretty sophisticated love songs, and you know, day in, day out.
Day out. Let's do that one. We got a nice surprise for everybody on this one. 1, 2, 1. Vanessa Perea.
Day in, day out, the same old voodoo follows me about, the same old pounding in my heart whenever I think of you, and darling, I think of you, day in and day out, day out, day in. I needn't tell you how my days begin. When I awaken with a tingle, one possibility in view, that possibility of maybe seeing you. Come rain, come shine, I meet you, and to me the day is fine. Then I kiss your lips, and the pounding becomes the ocean's roar, 1,000 drums. Can't you see it's love? Can there be any doubt when there it is, day in, day out? Then I kiss your lips, and the pounding becomes the ocean's roar, 1,000 drums. Can't you see it's love? Can there be any
Now, Johnny, I'm forced at this point to lead you to talk about the woman who gave you the blues. Now, I'm not talking
Vanessa.
I'm not talking about
Guarantee you, she's giving me nothing but happiness. That girl.
Yeah, not Vanessa. She and not your wife. Not your wife, Johnny. Ginger, though she did her share. But we're talking about.
I stayed with her.
You did. You were a good Episcopalian choir boy from Savannah.
Yeah.
Except in your relationship with Judy Garland. And you met under unusual circumstances. Her engagement party.
I met her at Bob Hope's house. And Bob and Judy were to sing a duet together that night. But Bob said, Johnny, why don't you do this song with Judy? And Judy and I hit it off. We had great chemistry. And we decided we'd record a little together. And we did, went in the recording studio soon thereafter. And then Judy invited me to lunch at her trailer on the MGM lot. And
stop right there. This is a family library.
This is a nice crowd, right? So that's where that all began.
But it kept going on because she had some kind of magic for you.
She did indeed. I was madly in love with Judy, and I think she was with me. It was a pretty doomed relationship. As you mentioned, I was married.
She was married a lot.
Yeah, but she was engaged at the time. And I knew that relationship was doomed. But I just could not stay away. I should stay away, but what can I do? I hear your name, and I'm aflame. Old black magic got me in a spell.
That old black magic that you weave so well.
Ooh, those icy fingers up and down my spine.
The same old witchcraft when your eyes meet mine.
It's the same old tingle that I feel inside.
And then that elevator starts its ride.
Down and down I go.
Round and round I go.
Like a leaf caught in the tide.
I should stay away, but what can I do? I hear your name and I'm aflame.
Flame with a burning desire.
That only a kiss.
Put out the fire. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, when I heard that I'm going to be Johnny Mercer, I said, oh, God, that's a stretch. I'm not an actor. But I have in my shows, I will say this, I sort of come to sort of just inhabit his character. And I've actually, when I introduced the band, I have as sort of a joke introduce myself as Johnny Mercer, because my name's John. So I've done that, and people get a kick out of that. And they sort of relate to that. So I said, well, maybe it won't be such a stretch.
That old black magic called love.
So, Johnny, there's always the question for a man, what do you do when you've got a broken heart? Can I offer you a drink?
Sure.
So, we could set one up for you, but, Judy...
That's my demon right there.
Right. You had a drinking problem, but you also made something out of that drinking problem.
Well, Judy, I had really thought about leaving my wife. And I'd sort of made up my mind to do just that. And the morning that I finally got up the courage to go to Ginger and said, Ginger, and Ginger knew about Judy, by the way. I mean, everybody in Hollywood at that point did. And I went to her and I said, basically said, I want out, I want to be with Judy. And she looked at me and she said, oh, is that right? And she pushed a little copy of Variety across the table, and on it was a headline, Judy Garland elopes.
And you weren't there in the honeymoon suite.
I was heartbroken.
And so you did.
And I did what I always did when I was. I started drinking again. It's 2:45. There's no one in the place except you and me. So set 'em up, Joe. Got a little story you ought to know. We're drinking, my friend, to the end of a brief episode. So make it one for my baby and one more for the road. Meanwhile, I'll just have a drink and get on that piano and play.
Oh, it's great music. Oh, yeah. They're fun to play, and they're fun to sing. And, you know, and a lot of them are jazz standards. And so they're fun to play on. Oh, they're a gas.
So now, Johnny, we need to talk about the one thing that you didn't succeed at. And you looked at Cole Porter and the Gershwins and Irving Berlin and Rodgers and Hammerstein and Lerner and Loewe. There's something they could do that you never got to do, which is a hit Broadway musical. But where you did have success, you didn't have it on Broadway, but you had it in the movies. And you won 4 Oscars. Amazing. But the first really big hit, I mean, we've talked about a couple.
How many Grammys did we?
But a couple of those movie songs, but the really big hit, the one that everybody here knows, that set off this career in the movies, dominating the Oscars, et cetera, was for a movie you never even saw.
The movie was Laura. And the theme from Laura was quite a beautiful tune by David Raskin. And after the movie came out, people loved the tune so much. They started writing the producers and saying, "Where's the song? Where's the song? We want to buy the song." And so they started looking for lyricists. And I actually was the 3rd lyricist they came to. But according to David Raskin, I was the one that he always wanted. And I didn't see the movie, but everybody says the lyrics fit the movie perfectly. But it was such a gorgeous tune that I just let the melody sort of seep into me and let it create a mood.
any kind of story, whether the story is about you, it's about the music. It gives the song, remember songs 2-3 minutes, 4 minutes if you stretch it out. It gives the song a context that, you know, just the song alone, you know, songs speak to you, but when you have a context, it enhances the meaning and stuff.
She gave your very first kiss to you. That was Laura, but she's only a dream.
It's interesting in these movie songs that, which became sort of a feature once the Tin Pan Alley was really over and you weren't doing Broadway and interested in rock music. But the interesting theme within the themes of all your movie, great movie songs seems to me to be memory.
Henry Mancini was writing the score for a movie that Audrey Hepburn was starring in.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Right. Truman Capote novel.
Truman Capote, yeah.
And
And she wanted to sing.
she insisted on singing. She had not been able to really sing in My Fair Lady. And by the time we got to Breakfast at Tiffany's, she was a big star. And she insisted on singing. And I wrote this tune for her, sort of kind of a childhood reverie of my childhood in Savannah. She was a Southern girl in the movie, so.
Yeah, there's the Vernon River again.
There's the Vernon River
So
again.
that doesn't quite work in the song title.
No, it didn't. Vernon River, no, didn't work like that. But so they renamed that portion of the Vernon River where my childhood home was to Moon River, which they say
Yeah.
the sign that commemorates that is the most stolen sign in all of Georgia.
Moon River, wider than a mile, I'm crossing you in style someday. Old dream maker, you heartbreaker, wherever you're going, I'm going your way.
I think it also gives people a different idea what the library is all about. So there's a sort of the librarian shushing people and a lot of books in stacks and quiet and deadly dull is sometimes a view of the library. And so if we can change that view and tell people we're about exciting things that are happening in the community today, things we can bring the past alive for you, we've done a service for the library and the community.
Huckleberry friend, Moon River, and me.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Bauers is Johnny Mercer. Woo!
Vanessa Perea,
Vanessa Perea.
my buddy Dave Post, Kansas City's own Marty Morrison back there on the drums filling in for us. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You know, it does occur to me that if I were Bobby Darin and you were Johnny Mercer,
Which I am.
we'd be
Well, we'd be two of a kind.
two
just
of a
like
kind.
That's that album that we recorded in 1963.
You didn't
wanna
pay
try
to hear
that?
me, but you're going to.
We're two of a kind. For your information, we're two of a. Why don't you sing?
Two of a kind, it's my observation, we're two of a kind.
Like peas in a pod, birds of a feather.
Alone or together you'll find we are three of a kind.
Everybody say.
We are three of a kind.